about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, presented to you by the ad-free shows and podcast heat networks. I'm John Alba. Normally, I'm joined by the woken one, the broken one, the spoken one himself, Mr. Matt Hardy. But the Hardy family is on vacation this week. It's a Hardy family vacation down at the beach. I hope they're having a great time. It seems like they are. And it presented a unique opportunity for us to bring you another one of our live events that I truly believe is one of the best episodes of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. And I'm so excited to bring that to you in just a few minutes here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. But before we can get into that, you may have seen the announcement online this past week. If you are in Atlantic City, New Jersey, the weekend of July 12th, for 90s WrestleCon, you are in for a unique experience. It is a night with the Hardys, the Hardy Party. The first time ever we are doing a joint live event. We are so excited for this. 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, July 13th. That is going to be at the ACX1 Studios at the Pier at Caesars in Atlantic City as part of 90s WrestleCon, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You're going to get a live edition of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, interactive Q&A, going to be fantastic. And right after that, so excited for this, a Jeff Hardy concert. So back-to-back, belly-to-belly, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, John Alba sandwich somewhere in the middle there. Tickets are $60 for the two events combined. So you're getting 2 for 1 here, 2 for the price of 1. And of course, if you'd like to get something signed by the Hardys, they're going to be signing all weekend at 90s WrestleCon. Get your tickets now at HardyBoysLive.com. That's HardyBoysLive.com. HardyBoysLive.com. Tickets are $60 Friday, July 13th. It will get you into the Hardy Party, the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy live, and Jeff Hardy live on stage for an acoustic concert. So excited to be part of this very special night, especially being in New Jersey, where I'm from, where I grew up. Atlantic City. Meet me tonight in Atlantic City, my boy Bruce Springsteen would say. So if you want to come hang with us, who knows what else will be going down there. 90s WrestleCon is going to be a fantastic time. There's a ton of live shows going on over the course of that weekend, alongside the meet and greets and signings. So freaking excited for this. HardyBoysLive.com is going to be your place to go for that. Now, this week's episode of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy is going to take us back to WrestleCon. You may remember just about 2 months ago now, believe it or not. I can't believe it was already 2 months ago. Matt and I did a live show at WrestleCon where we looked at the TLC years, tables, ladders, and chairs, oh my, and we told some stories that we've never even told here on the podcast before. It was a great crowd, and we had a very special guest, Mr. Mike Chioda, one of the longest tenured officials in WWE history, who provided such a unique perspective of all the TLC matches because he was there ringside. So you're going to hear some great stories over the course of this podcast. I cleaned up the audio as much as I could. It was a live recording. You saw it with the Monster Factory episode a few weeks ago too. Had to do a little cleaning up, but we did our best on that. I will say this, for my money, this is the single funniest episode of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy that you're going to hear. It was undoubtedly, in both Matt and mine's opinion, our best live show to date. You cannot miss these things. They are the absolute best. Matt and I love taking the Extreme Life on the road. So make sure the next time we're in your area, you are checking things out. We will be keeping you updated with our next lineup of live shows. But without further ado, I want you to enjoy the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy live at WrestleCon. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Oh my.
So, without further ado, please, a round of applause for the living legend himself, the broken one, the spoken one, Mr. Matt Hardy. Very like you to milk at entrance, there's no doubt about that. You can see right there, they're very bouncy chairs, be careful. Yes. The Jimmy legs might not be very conducive to them, quite frankly.
The Jimmy legs are doing a little better.
That's good. That's his Steve Weiser here.
It's been a long day already.
Matt and I have another live show after this later tonight at the Monster Factory, so it's going to be a long day. First off, show of hands, who here listens to the podcast regularly? There we go. We got a bunch. That's awesome.
It is bouncy.
Yeah, right there?
Yeah.
Dude stands on ladders for a living and he can't do it.
Very good. Thank you guys first and foremost for being here. WrestleCon, it's crazy how it has grown just as it's like a staple of WrestleMania weekend right now, and it's so cool. There was actually someone that just came through that said they were at WWE World today and said, like, it was very WWE. They were moving people through the line real fast, and there was like a pre-signed 8x10s and whatnot, and like you couldn't really talk to anyone, get the experience, and they just said the experience was so much better here. And I don't know if anyone else has had that experience today, but the fact of the matter is big props to High Spots and Michael for doing this so well.
And special thanks to Josh over here as well for helping run this show. It's been really cool. We got some WrestleCon super fans here, so thanks for picking this as one of your events. And to everyone else who purchased a ticket, we really do appreciate that and your support. Matt, we're in Philadelphia, WrestleMania 40. Any Philadelphia wrestling memories come to mind for you?
The first thing that truly pops in mind for me when I think about Philadelphia and wrestling here, I do remember there were times when we were wrestling with tights before we did the makeover and got with Michael Hayes, where the crowd started to half-ass turn heel on us because they're like, oh, these pretty guys, like, want to be rockers, whatever we're getting.
A couple young bucks, if you will.
A couple young bucks, if you will. Thank God we were born so the young bucks could exist.
That's right.
And I remember they were a little volatile. And in Philadelphia, I feel like more than almost any other city, even more than New York City, they were one of the towns that really were ahead of the game when it came to knowing the business of pro wrestling. And they understood that the heels were people playing bad guys, and they would cheer them. They were notorious for that. So if you were like a goody two-shoes, white meat, baby face, who's like, yes, I'm going to play by the rules, they would turn on you quick if you weren't really aware of what you were doing. But after we joined Michael Hayes and we had that new makeover and the evolution of the Hardy Boys, we were here, the pay-per-view after the first TLC. And the first TLC, we were supposed to win. But I'll never forget, like 2 nights before the event, before the pay-per-view, Vince told us, as we were talking about what we were going to do, Vince said, damn it, it's in Raleigh, North Carolina. Everybody in that building is going to know you're going to win. It's too damn predictable. And like we're saying, like, we've been chasing these titles for months, and we were promised at WrestleMania the blow-off was going to be SummerSlam, and we're going to win in North Carolina. It's going to be like a really cool thing, that we win in our home state, right? He says, it's just too damn predictable. We got to put Edge and Christian over. He said, we're going to have them win, and the next month we'll have you guys win. We'll do a cage match. And we ended up doing a cage match in Philadelphia. It was Unforgiven. And we won the titles, and at that time, we really felt like we were deserving of the titles. The first time we won the titles from the APA, we felt like we didn't really help the titles, but the titles helped us. It made us seem like more legitimate. It gave us credibility, which was very cool. And once again, Ron Simmons here, which I love. I became great friends with him over the years. And JBL, get along great with him too. Those guys were willing to allow us to win that match. If there's any, I know there's a couple top guys. Maybe a top guy here, as JBL would say, well, hell. Well, hell, they put a couple young kids over, and we won the titles. At that time, though, we weren't like the hottest and best tag team, and we weren't necessarily deserving of the titles. The titles were helping us. But by the time we got around to Philadelphia and we won in that cage match, the Philly crowd erupted when we won, and we got out of the cage. We were the best tag team, and we were deserving of those titles. And we did something for the titles, which was so cool. So that's what I think about when I think about Philadelphia.
And then they made you do a ladder match like the next night.
Yeah, and that is true. We Jeff did the Whisper in the Wind off the cage. I got superplexed off the top of the cage, and both Adam and Jay took some big bumps. We gave myself and Jeff, we were on top of the cage, and they'd been giving us concertos and to try to make this more of a blow-off. We were going to give Adam Copeland, Edge, the concerto from the top of the cage. It was really hard to balance up there. And he said, oh, it'll be fine. Like, if you give it to me, I'll just bump back and fall like off the top of the cage, the railing that was up there. And whenever Jeff and I, whenever we swung, it was like hard to really control your balance and like your swing and everything else. And he got a legit concerto in many ways. Like, we laid it into him pretty good. And I remember hitting him, and I told Jeff later, I said, whether he wanted to take a bump back or not, he didn't really have any choice at that point. He was going to be falling down. But everybody beat themselves up. The next night we were in State College, PA, and we were all slated to just do a promo or a vignette. Nothing physical. And we're like, thank God, like, we're all beat up. We all iced that night, and just everybody's beat up. And we said, thank God we're off tomorrow, because we like beat ourselves up. We walk into the building and they say, hey, we changed things. We're on a new channel. You guys are going to have a 3-segment ladder match. And we're like, what? A 3-segment ladder match? Like, we can all barely walk today. And then I remember Pat Patterson said, it just be a simple ladder match. You don't use it as a weapon. You don't have to take the big, crazy, nasty bumps that you always take. You just have a standard wrestling match. And he said, just use the weapon as a ladder. Don't really use it. Don't fall off it. No big bumps. And we're going, brother, we've got a standard to live up to.
Have you watched a Hardy match before?
Yeah, it's like, if we go out there and we don't do a ladder match that they're expecting, it is not going to work. So we knew we had to rise up to the bar. And it was tough. And we got through it. Everybody was beat up. And Jeff still gave a superhuman effort, like always. And he did the crazy stuff in the match. But we made it somehow.
It's just shocking that you ended up broken after all of those.
Yeah, no, well, I was broke back in 2006, 2007. I just didn't enter the gimmick yet.
I don't know if you know, you're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you turn 29. That's what they've been telling me.
Yet?
Yeah, that's what they've been telling me.
No, you're right.
Okay.
We did hear that, yeah.
Just a small sampling of so many of these great stories that you have to offer here throughout the course of your career. But we have a tradition on our podcast that we do every single week. It's something that you made very popular with the Matt Hardy V1 character. And that, of course, is to give us your weekly Matt Fact. So without further ado, please, Matt Hardy, hit us with your Matt Fact.
Here we go. Matt Fact. Matt has always paid back the money he's borrowed. 2, Matt Fact, Matt's loans haven't always been paid back. I thought that would be a good 1-2 punch, because that's a shoot, brother. It's just interesting.
You want to throw anyone under the bus, or?
I mean, there's too many people to throw under the bus. We only have an hour and a half for this thing. Jesus Christ.
That's a fair point.
As one of my favorite referees would say, okay. You know what I mean?
You're telling me that people in wrestling are dishonest and don't pay their money back?
Well, on some other levels. Not necessarily people on, at the very top, the top level, but there's been people, that have had projects, this, that, thing. And, you don't always see that money back.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, what you guys pull in at one convention is so much copious amounts of fuck you money that I will never see in my entire life. So I hope that you'll survive to live to see the next day if someone doesn't pay you back.
I'll try.
It's really hard being Matt Hardy.
You don't understand how hard it is to be Matt Hardy.
Well, look at that pudding.
I've got Woofy saying right now. My son that is 6 years old, he said the other day, he was doing a stream and they were playing. I'm not big on all the Twitch stuff. They were playing a video game, right? He had like an hour or an hour and a half invested in it, whatever. And then like it shut down, and my wife was able to correct it, but he did it, and he was upset. He was about to cry, and he went on. He said, "I can't deal with this." He said, "It's too stressful," and he likes that word, stressful. He said, "It's too stressful." And then I came out and said, "Whoopi, you okay?" He said, "You don't understand how hard it is to be Whoopi Hardy." I said, "Hey, that's my shit."
That's good infringement.
Yeah. I said, "They give you permission to use that?"
There was one time Wolfie had jiu-jitsu, and I guess he went up a grade in his belt level, and you were on the phone with me, and I could hear him in the background. I said, "Wolfie, you like going to jiu-jitsu?" He goes, "Honestly, it's very stressful." Like, which of their parents are these kids cut from?
I don't know. He's got a lot of his mother's emotions, I think.
I see. Okay. Well, if you haven't checked out The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, you know that you will often get a House Hardy cameo at some point during the recording of it. Gothic Baby was super over today at WrestleCon. Your son, and this is a shoot, your son was selling these like Pokemon crystals. He outsold your wife's book today.
Ladies and gentlemen, all hell, King Maxwell. He's a big TV star.
Dude, I went down to get him a snack from the vending machine. This is a shoot, I swear. And I come back with the snacks. And he goes, how much do I owe you? I made $540 today.
He was 8 years old.
Big Money Maxwell.
Yeah, Big Money Maxwell.
Oh my goodness, so good, so good. So I want to start with this TLC journey because without these two matches, you can't even begin discussing TLC. And that is the tag team ladder match at No Mercy 1999 and the tag team tables match at Royal Rumble 2000. 1999, of course, Edge and Christian, the finals of the Terry Invitational Tournament, the TIT. Won by the Hardy Boys.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah. And then the tag team tables match against the Dudley Boys at Madison Square Garden. So how do you feel those two matches built the foundation for what we would know as tables, ladders, and chairs?
After we were repackaged with Michael and they utilized us and they saw we were starting to get over, they actually asked us for ideas and whatnot. And myself and Jeff, we used to do ladder matches on the Indies in the 90s in North Carolina all the time. Like that was a deal that we did. And I would be myself, Matt Hardy, Surge was my name, and Jeff was Will of the Wisp wearing a hood, wearing a mask. And we knew we could do this well, and because we knew Christian and Edge so well, and we knew how they worked, and we had so many commonalities, we were like, if the four of us had a tag team match in a ladder match environment, and it's called the first ever tag team ladder match, that would do well. And if you can sell Vince McMahon on it being a first of something back in the day, if it was the first of whatever it may be, that was always a great selling point. You might get your idea approved if that happens. But we wanted to do this tag team ladder match, and we'd thrown it out there. We're talking about building up to it. And then they created the idea. They said, what if we do a best of series, and then we finish it up with that. And that's the series breaker. So that's how that came to be. And we knew if we got out there with those guys, we could do something that no other two tag teams had ever done in the history of wrestling, because no one had been given that kind of blank canvas to paint a picture on and tell a story. And like with our athleticism and just the fearlessness we all wrestled with, we knew it would be something really special.
And then you go to Madison Square Garden for the tables match, too, where those damn Dudleys are the craziest SOBs that the World Wrestling Federation has ever seen at that point. And it feels like you set the bar so high with the tag team ladder match that all of a sudden you have to go into Madison Square Garden, biggest show of the year before WrestleMania. What was that experience like, and what was the chemistry like with the Dudleys, who were relatively new to WWF at that point?
Yeah, even before I get there, to kind of bridge all of this together. So there was an idea after we had that tag team ladder match. I wanted us to all be a group together, myself, my brother Jeff, Edge, and Christian, and be baby faces, and like maybe even like have a program with DX, who was also a four-man unit at that time too. And that would have helped continue to elevate us all, right? And my idea, the name I pitched for the group was Version 1. And like, it was going to be the version 1 of the way pro wrestling is going to be looking going forward. This is the version 1 of how pro wrestling is going from this year forward. Obviously, that didn't happen. And they said, oh, we want to go some different directions with you guys. We'll probably bring you back later. And I said, well, we got the Dudleys in here, and they're known for breaking tables, and that's established already from their ECW days. I said, what if we do kind of like a deal similar to we did with Edge and Christian? We have a program with them, and we build to a tag team table match where we can go out there and go nuts with tables. And they ended up buying that idea. And then once we got to MSG, it was amazing, because right when we walked out through the curtain, and this would happen in WWE all the time, right? We lost about 4 minutes on our match. And we had a lot of crazy stuff planned, whatever else. And we went back and we had a little team gathering, and we said, like, what do you want to do? What should we cut or what should we drop? Because we got a lot of good shit in here, guys, and I really want to retain as much as we can. And then I remember looking at Bubba, and we were kind of like the guys who were the architects for both teams. And we just both said, let's burn through it. I mean, if we don't sell as much as we should sell, like, to hell with it. Let's just burn through it and let's do it. You know, if they're not going to give us all that time, let's go out there and burn through it, and let's take as much time as we need. Whatever. It was a little bit of a rebellion, you know, from all four of us, and we went out there and we flew through it. We didn't sell as much as we should have, looking back in hindsight, but once again, that match ended up being a legendary, iconic match.
In just a couple minutes, we're going to bring our special guest up here who was front row and center to a lot of these matches, but it leads the path to WrestleMania 2000, which, my opinion, overall, not a very good show. I mean, there's not even one actual singles match on this WrestleMania card. And yet, the one match that does get everyone talking is the Triangle Ladder match. Not officially a tables, ladders, and chairs match, but the first time we see the integration of the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian with all of the elements combined. How did you guys successfully create identifiers, like you guys the ladders, the Edge and Christian had the chairs, the Dudleys get the tables. How did you guys successfully integrate all of that and create anticipation for what would be the predecessor to TLC?
It was pretty well established, I think, because we were able to be victorious in the first tag team ladder match. So the ladders were associated with the Hardys, and a lot of that is because of Jeff. Because if Jeff just sees a ladder, he's just he's addicted to jump off of it.
We got to tell them what he said earlier. Jeff was like, "Oh, where's the show?" It's like the rooftop, and he's like, "Is there something I can jump off of?"
Yeah. He said, "Oh, I should come. I'll jump off." What? Anyway, Brother Nero will jump off every perch available. It's one thing I used to say, like when I was doing Broken Bat, I was trying to use different terminology anyway. I'd say, because I must control you from jumping off the top rope, because I know you have an addiction and you want to jump off every single perch available. And that was true. And people just associated the ladders with myself and Jeff. So, you know, the Hardys had the ladders. The Dudleys already had tables associated with them from ECW, and we'd had that table match. So they fit. You had the Hardys and ladders, and the Dudleys and tables. And I remember we said we need something if we're going to each have an object representing us that Edge and Christian can be associated with. And we made jokes, you know, what if we give you guys pliers? How about a pair of pliers? Like, you know, maybe we have ladders, tables, and you guys have pliers. You know, so it could have been the TLP match. We weren't far away from it. They ended up getting stuck with the chairs, and they made the most of it because, you know, they obviously created the concerto, the one-man concerto, and all the other stuff. And those three elements, it's crazy how we were able to integrate everything so smoothly to make TLC, the tables, ladders, and chairs match, a staple of pro wrestling.
So we go to the pond, Anaheim, WrestleMania 2000. We have Anaheim here in the house? Yeah? Okay. Like one or two? Okay, cool.
Matt, we are so fresh around the corner to summer. I know that is like your favorite time of the year. It's my favorite time of the year. You want to have things both ways. You want to be able to go out there, grill, eat whatever you want, but you want to look good at the same time. You want to feel good. You want to feel confident. And I can't think of any better way to do so than with our friends over at Mack Weldon. Mack Weldon makes timeless apparel with modern performance fabrics for guys who want to look and feel sharp without sacrificing comfort. From their light as air underwear to innovative anti-odor tees and versatile yet comfortable pants, Mack Weldon has a full range of clothes that never go out of style. I know that you've been rocking Mack Weldon at some signings lately, haven't you?
I have been, yeah. I rocked my Mack Weldon white shirt, and I love the fact it fit tight, it was light, it just was comfortable, and it made me feel confident, especially wearing white. I did a signing, and it was slated to be 5 hours. I ended up signing for 7.5 hours, and that shirt just was comfortable all the while through. And I felt like $1 million. I felt confident. I felt like people wanted to take their picture with me, not just because I was Matt Hardy, but because I looked good, because I felt good. And the confidence that Mack Weldon gave me wearing that shirt that day really helped me that autograph signing.
Ooh, I love to hear that, Matt. I love to hear that you felt super confident. I'm going to tell you, this right here, I got this blue polo from Mack Weldon. It is a medium fit. I'm a medium polo. These are so damn comfortable. You said it too. It's a very unique material. Very unique material. It's like lightweight, but very aerodynamic as well, because I sweat like crazy. And it's nice to have something that, I don't know about you, if you've ever worn a polo. I know you're not a huge polo guy, but a lot of times polos can be very heavy, especially as the weather gets warmer. This is so lightweight. It almost reminds me like a golf polo, but it doesn't look anything like a golf polo. It is super, super chic, and I'm a huge, huge fan of this product, and I know you are as well. This is not just a typical podcast endorsement we're talking about here. You know, some guys want to look good without calling attention to themselves, and Mack Weldon Apparel gives you understated good looks for understated confidence. It's not really flashy like I was showing you. It's just classic, in style, made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. And these clothes are designed to fit your style and the demands of modern life. They look like quote unquote regular clothes, but they feel like the latest in modern comfort technology. They're the go-to choice for guys who want to look great without even trying. I even wore Mack Weldon out on a date last night, and that's the truth. That's a shoot, brother. And guess how it went?
I bet it was wonderful.
That was exactly it. We're getting good at this. So I want to help you guys get timeless looks with modern comfort from Mack Weldon. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code HARDY. That's MackWeldon.com, promo code HARDY. And we thank Mack Weldon for sponsoring the extreme life of Matt Hardy.
The Mighty Ducks was a good movie. I mean, what are the expectations internally from the people backstage for this match? Because we've never seen all these elements integrated together. Are you told anything before going out there? And what expectations did you guys have on yourselves?
I think the expectations from the office and the people in the back, they didn't want more than 3 people to die during this match. I mean, they were a little freaked out about what we were going to do, like, because they gave us, you know, they really did. They were very, very open about allowing us to do what we want to do. I remember whenever the super table that we built, and like we put a little framing around it. We had the guy who did our stunts and whatnot, Richie, I think it was Richie at this time, if Richie was still there, was able to build a little thing where we could set this on top of the ladders and it would sit sturdy. The finish of the match where you see like Edge and Christian standing or kneeling up on top of this structure that's on top of 2 10-foot ladders, that thing was like built so it wouldn't fall, because like if you just put a table up there on its own, it's like so wobbly it would fall immediately, and it still was pretty unstable. So we had these ideas that we wanted to utilize and whatnot, and they were like, okay, we're just kind of giving you, you know, total creative control in this. You guys do it and do whatever. And they knew we were doing some crazy stuff. And one thing that I'll never forget, and this is something that stands out so crazy, because now it is so hard to get television time property on a show like a Raw or SmackDown or AEW, Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, whatever it may be, NXT, Ring of Honor. And we went out at WrestleMania, and I want to say we had like 24 minutes, and Bruce Pritchard, who was running Gorilla, who was timing the matches, who would give you the countdown. It's like where you're at, and you know when you need to get ready to go home, finish up the match. Before we went out, he said, hey, we know you guys have a ton of crazy things planned tonight, so we don't want any of you to rush. This was all of our first WrestleMania, too. This was our first WrestleMania. It's 6 guys who were making their WrestleMania pay-per-view debut in like the semi-main event. So he said, we don't want any of you guys to rush. We want you to take your time. We want you to be safe. We don't want anything to become reckless because you're trying to hit that allotted 24 minutes. They said, take your time. Time's not an issue. Take all the time you want. We're okay on the show. It's a little light. Take all the time you want. Well, I wish they would have given us that after being in the business 25 years. There wouldn't even have been a main event. We would have went till it went off air. No, but they were really cool about that, and to be going out on the biggest pay-per-view, the showcase of the Immortals, and to be told like, don't worry about time, take all the time you need. Need is unprecedented.
Well, that's because he watched the rest of the show and he was like, shit. Man, did you see that hardcore scramble that the wrong guy won? We got to come up with something here. Oh my goodness.
So there wasn't any singles matches on the show?
There was one singles match, and I'm pretty sure it was like a Playboy evening gown match between like the Cat and Terry. Yeah, I don't know. That's my brain worms kicking in right now. But so I mean, you guys go out there, you tear it up. It's your first time, all 3 of you working together on that stage. What's the reception like after the match? Who earned a lot of credit for putting the match together? What can you share?
The first ever triangle ladder match, in essence, the TLC blueprint, that was very much a group effort. Everybody worked together. We all brainstormed. We had a lot of other things that we wanted to do, and we knew, because roughly we were going to have 23 to 25 minutes, we knew there was only so many things we could put in, and we didn't know if there was going to be another one. So we wanted to go all out, right? We wanted to really make our WrestleMania moment, and we wanted our legacy to be great. So we were going to go out there and we were going to do all we could to steal the show. That was our goal, obviously. So it was a group effort. Everybody worked together, and I remember just figuring out the best way to do things. Is something. It was really a learning lesson. We were kind of learning on the fly about like where should you set up a ladder in the ring to make it look like you are trying to actually win the match as opposed to just doing a move on someone. And that's something we learned through that match. And I say this over and over, of the series of three, the triangle ladder match, TLC 1 and TLC 2. TLC 2 is the best from a psychology standpoint, in my opinion. It just all made the most sense because we were still wanting to do our stuff. Like I know Jeff and I were going to set up the ladders, we're going to do the event Omega, but then there's someone who could make the claim like, well, they have their opponents down. Why don't they just put it underneath the title and try and win? And you know, going forward past that, we always tried to be very mindful of that.
There's so much communication that has to go into a match like that, and even in the match itself, there has to be someone helping facilitate communication amongst everyone, making sure that you're hitting specific spots and specific timing. So I when we came up with the idea for this live show, I was like, what better way to get inside the concept and psychology of TLC than having a special guest that was one of those facilitators and was one of those people. So without further ado, let's bring him up. He's one of the longest tenured officials in WWE history, and he was front row and center for like everything Matt Hardy, TLC. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike Chioda. Come on up, Chioda. Like the Godfather over here, man. What's up, brother? There you go. Great to see you, pal.
Good to see you.
Of course.
Thanks for having me, man. Sir.
These guys haven't seen each other in a real long time, so. Take a seat, Mr. Chioda. Thanks for joining us here, man.
You got it.
So, dude, I'll tell you, this is a rib.
Okay, that old or what? How's everybody doing tonight?
Hell yeah.
So, how batshit crazy was it seeing Jeff Hardy jump off 20-foot ladders up close?
Brother, it was, John, it was incredible. The Hardys took the business and tag teams and TLC to a whole nother level. I started in 1985. 87, I started refereeing. 89, I made my debut working with Demolition, Road Warriors, Power and Glory, all the other guys in the business. It was just seeing the Hardys come in the late 90s. They just took the business to a whole nother level. You know, those guys worked the ground, the business, Road Warriors. Hold on. Too many rock stars today. You know, you just seeing them guys coming off the ladders and doing all that stuff. Matt, Jeff, Edge, Christian, was just took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, and you laid that foundation again. It's just like layering, right? Like you had the tables match, you had the ladder match, now you got the triangle ladder match.
Right.
And that brings us into TLC 1, which, as Matt alluded to, was in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Right.
And Matt, you might have to jog my memory here, but Mick Foley had a bit that he started going where someone would say tables, ladders, and chairs.
Oh my!
Tables, ladders, and chairs.
Oh my!
Tables, ladders, and chairs.
Oh my!
We didn't even rehearse that shit.
we were in harmony.
But I mean, this starts to take on a life of its own. Mike, I mean, you had a totally different view of this than anybody else did.
Right.
Why do you feel at that time, in the year 2000, that this counterculture style of match started to grab people's attention? Not just audience, but maybe even the people in the back too.
Well, not only the people are back, when it grabs somebody that's been in the business for 15 years at that point and stuff, it grabs me, with the Hardys being one of my best tag teams, seeing them come into the business, not only inside the ring, but outside the ring. Just phenomenal times, man, both inside and outside, man. And, it was always made, like, the ref doesn't have a lot of responsibility in that match. As far as we do have responsibilities, is checking on the boys. They're falling off these ladders, 18, 20-foot ladders. These ladders started at a certain height, and then they got bigger, and then they got taller. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, somebody's coming off of this 18, 20-foot ladder. I'm thinking, because, we had to set them up, too, because I was doing crew till at least the mid-2000s. So I did crew and refereeing, setting up the rings, making sure the ladders were in position, especially with Nick Daw and, Richie Posner, as you mentioned, doing all the gimmick stuff. And then, it was always wondering, like, I think the first ladder match I witnessed was an unbelievable match, was Razor and Shawn Michaels, right?
Yeah, that was a big inspiration for Jeff and I.
Right, okay. So, and the way they did that was an unbelievable match in the ladder match, how you can establish making a match with ladders and stuff, So, but like I said, when these guys came into business, it took it to a whole nother level. I mean, when you were impressed, it was just like, wow, they impressed me, impressed the guys in the back and all that stuff. Oof, just took it to a whole nother level.
So, Matt, walk me through the process then here. You guys are putting TLC 1 together. I mean, it is now labeled tables, ladders, chairs. This is like an attraction. They are selling pay-per-views on this. This is not just something that's on the card. How do you guys then bring that upon yourselves to take it to the next level? And how much communication before the match goes into the referee's ear?
I was driving down the highway the other night. I looked down at the date and I realized that I am just a month away from a couple concerts. I got Foo Fighters coming up. I got Sammy Hagar, Summer Nights on the Radio. It's summer concert season, and Game Time is making getting tickets for concerts and events faster and easier, even if you don't buy tickets right away. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to the event, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying concert tickets. And it's not just all your concerts that you're planning out months in advance. There are so many times that I see a show, and at the very last second, I decide to go. You may recall, if you've been listening to The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, it was last March. I was outside of Philadelphia. My boy, Bruce Springsteen, he was in Philadelphia. I waited until 35 minutes before the event to purchase a ticket for the show, and I got the best damn deal with our pals at Game Time, and used that code Hardy to save $20 off my first purchase. This app has got you covered. It features last-minute deals, saving up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever it may be. Their flash deals allow you to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. And with their zone deals, you save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. My absolute favorite part, though, about Game Time is the all-in pricing. You toggle this feature, it shows the total upfront. There are no surprise fees, no surprise taxes. Everything is extremely transparent, and with their lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find the tickets anywhere else. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code HARDY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Create an account, redeem code HARDY for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
The best thing you can do is to try and make sure the referees are in tune with what you're doing, because if they're in tune with what you're doing and they kind of they know your framework, then they can help you and they can assist you. Even, I mean, there's times in the matches where, say, Chioda might be outside and I'm in there, and like something happens with Jeff in the ring, and he's like, "Hey, is brother okay?" You know, you could see me roll over like, "Hey, you good?" Then I could roll back over to him and let him know, and then he could report it to the back. So there was a lot of communication with that, and I know all the time there's guys who are selling on the outside. Where are you at time-wise? Where are you at time-wise? You know, you're trying to, and then they can relay it to someone else because it is tricky. Like if you have two people up on a 12-foot ladder and they're fighting, doing whatever, it's hard to get them a time cue, especially and do it on the DL. Putting that match together was really interesting. One story I wanted to share about it is there's a part in TLC, the first TLC in Raleigh, where I'm at the top of the ladder, I'm grabbing at the titles, and Devon grabs the ladder and tips it backwards, and I fall backwards through two tables. I remember we were going over that, and like Michael Hayes, who was out there helping produce the match, he just said, "Well, I got to tell you, there's a lot of people that feel a little uncomfortable with that because, you know, like if your legs hit the top rope, you're going to fall on your head. Right. But if you go too far back, then your head's going to hit the barricade and it's going to break your neck. So, you know, how do we know this is right?" And like I remember we would walk up. We did this in rehearsal the night before. We'd walk up. I'd see what step I need to be on. I had that memorized. I'd be grabbing the belt. And then we would like tip the ladder back from where it was and hold it steady where the ladder was and see exactly where that step landed, if I was going to clear the rope, whatever. And he said that day, he said Vince would really like you to land on a crash pad and just make sure this is going to be okay or whatever. Said, "Brother, Michael, tell Vince this is a one and done."
Yeah.
Like we've measured it out, and I feel good about this. This is a one and done. We do it live when that red light is on and it's recording. That's the only time we do that, and that's how that was. Yeah. But you know, it really is a team effort, especially when you're out there because these are the guys, you know, that have ears to the back and they know where your time is, and they are constantly doing a great job of communicating people in the way they do it very conspicuously, where it's like they're checking on them to see if they're hurt, whatever, but they're really giving them cues and whatnot. They do a great job. Yes. And Mike was always the master of it.
You always had the cues and everything, and the safety was very important. The cues are always important, like you said, because everything is so separated. We're always, you know, guys are on top of the ladder, checking on who's getting hurt, who's banged up. And even when they were banged up, they would still continue the match. They didn't care. Old school, like these guys, there was no take 5 minutes time, let's patch them up, let's glue you up, let's stitch you up and then get back in. It was just, you just went with it. Blood and everything, you know. You know, it always surprised me. I was like, seeing you guys just coming off that ladder onto tables on the outside and all that shit, you know. And then, you know, I was always, you know, driving with so much talent like R-Truth and Jack Swagger, you know, back then, and all the talent would be in the cars. And they were like, every time the pay-per-view came up, "Man, I hope I get in that ladder match. I hope I'm booked in that ladder match," you know. And I'm like, why you guys want to come off a 20-foot fucking, you know, don't you want to like have a long career and stuff? I'm like, man, it was like, they're like, Chioda, man, it's like 30, 40 grand, man, to get into these matches, you know.
But that's because of what you guys did.
What these guys established, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, 30, 40 fucking grand for that match? You gotta be kidding me. I'm getting like 3G, man. I'm like, holy shit, you know. It was like, I remember just a quick thing about that. It was like Big Show and Brock, right? Brock has Big Show in his hold. And I did the pay-per-view match. Like, you know, he used to get paid 6 months later. Yeah. And he's like, Brock's like, "Hey, Show, what'd you get paid for that match?" You know, he's in a hold. He's got Show in a hold. And he goes, "Oh, I got like 200 or something, you know." And, you know, like, Show's like, "What?" Brock's like, "I got 250. And I'm like, 250? 200? I'm like, 250 what? And he's like, 250,000. I'm like, 250 for that fucking pay-per-view? I'm like, I got 2,500. Holy shit. And then Big Show got hot. He came out of the hole because he got 50 grand less than Brock. Like, "Stop, Show. All right, stop." And Show's like, "No, Vince."
So, even off the back of that, so there was one time where Bubba specifically started. He said, "Hey, we didn't get paid enough, you know, for this TLC match because we've established this into something. We need to go. We need to talk to JR."
Right.
And I remember we sit there, we talked with JR about everything else. I says, "Well, okay, if you guys you believe you deserve that bonus, I'm going to give you a little bit of bonus, but I'll tell you, probably better not to be telling all the boys what you make on the pay-per-view."
Right.
He said, "Because of the other boys here, they might get upset.
They're going to get hot.
Boomer summer."
There you go. Yeah, but I remember we used to mark the tapes too, though. We used to mark the ring with a little bit of tape to put that ladder certain
like
spots.
we did as markers.
Markers to where, you know, you could you got to take that bump coming
You
off.
know exactly
over
where to go.
Tables on the
Well,
floor.
So you take that bump, TLC 1, you go through those tables. I mean, it could not have gone more perfect. It was
Right.
super flush. This is going to sound like the most remedial question ever. But how much does that hurt? Is the adrenaline rushing through you? Like when do you feel that?
It was one of those things where,
the next day, right?
I mean, yeah, you're gonna be sore the next day, but it's just like probably the anxiety and the fear of like taking the bump is worse than the actual physical pain of the bump. You know, and like once you do it, because you're so worried something might go awry, and then once you land right, you're like, well, hell yeah. I didn't break my neck.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like
Can't feel my arm,
it
but
seems like you win. It seems like you score a W.
I mean, the biggest thing we used to do is like, we used to like the boys would be laying there, and he used to, like the referee would come in and he'd squeeze your hand, squeeze your finger, just like because you didn't want to talk on TV. The camera's on you tight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times we talk carny back in those days. You know, we never said anything like in regular English because, instead of saying 5 minutes, you go be as I be as in it's, like because the camera would pick it up, but people would know what you're talking about. So that was the big thing, talking carny back then. And
He still talks carny all the
Yeah,
time.
I do too. Yeah,
Oh,
I do
yeah.
too. I can't help it.
He was talking about a fan to me. He was like, "Oh, is he a Mizark?"
Yeah,
He's
right.
A mark. Oh, okay. Yeah. I got
With the last so much talent that I was working with so many in the last few years of my career, I'd say carny like in times. I'd go, Tiazan, Niazan, Ize. And then we get to the back and they're like, did you not get the times? Like, no, I didn't get the times at all from Chioda. I'm like, what? I'm like, I told you Niazan, Ize, Ciaze. He goes, oh, is that carny? I don't even know how to speak carny. I'm like, oh, they don't teach you that in school?
Yeah.
Well,
They need to learn a new language.
when you see a guy like Matt Hardy go through a table, it's arbitrary for us to think, oh, it's just wrestlers going through tables. But like, these are your coworkers, these are your friends.
Right.
So like, how are you feeling with that?
Oh, brother, you just want to make sure everybody's all right. I mean, you're always worried about the neck break and this. I mean, major injuries. Super. To me, like these guys probably took so many concussions back in the day. We just called it. You got your head. You got your bell rung, right? I mean, it was just. But there was so many, concussions back in the days that we took as a rap for it. Mostly these guys, they just brushed it off and continued the matches, man, 95, 99% of the time.
Well, also back then, it was very much part of the culture because I remember when we were coming in the late 90s, full time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're out there and someone's swinging a chair shot at you and you would put up your hands,
right?
It's like a sign of weakness.
Right.
And you're criticized.
Yes.
And it's just like, if you just don't eat this chair shot like a man, then you're not worth being here.
Absolutely.
And that's how the culture was when we first began. They can't even show the whole Royal Rumble 2000 tables match with us and the Dudleys because we cream each other. There's like 10 or 11 unprotected chair shots.
Right.
Why was Bubba so willing to get his head smashed in?
Bubba was going to look strong, brother.
Yeah. Stay strong, right? Yeah, I remember, I took one chair shot in the business. Well, I took a couple in the back. One chair shot to the head, and it's so right what you just said there, Matt. Rock in Austin, WrestleMania, Philadelphia. I started the match. I had to do the first 10 minutes of the match. And Austin said, he's like, Coyote, he's like, man, you got to, just put your hands up in a little bit if you want to protect your face and your head, brother. I said, hell no. I said, being in this business, I said, I'm not going to put my hands up at all. He goes, man, I might do some damage, so I'm going to bring it. I said, just bring it, Steve. I said, what am I do? Put my hands up and know it's coming? It's supposed to be out of the blue, right? So he's like, you sure? I said, hell yeah, brother. After you guys go through and all the boys do, what am I sit there and go, I'll put my hands up, So yeah, I didn't put my hands up. And that's it. That thing rang my freaking head, my bell for like 3 days, man. My neck was stiff for about a week or two. They're no joke, those chair shots, man. No joke.
So it all gets us to TLC 2 after that, which I think many look at TLC 2, at least I can speak for myself on this, and it seems like a lot of wrestling fans do. That's like a transformative match in their wrestling fandom. I mean, WrestleMania X-Seven, WrestleMania 17, Houston Astrodome, iconic venue. It looked larger than life. It's kind of like life before TLC 2 and life after TLC 2. And I know you've spoken about how you feel like that match was truly the culmination of you guys like getting it and making all this stuff work. I'll have a couple questions for you, Mike, in a minute. But Matt, I mean, the anticipation for you guys going into TLC 2,
how do you even prepare for a match like that? How do you lay out a match like that? How does that all come together?
We knew it was going to be tough. It wasn't going to be an easy task because we'd done a lot now. You know, we'd had the tag team ladder match, we'd had the tables match, we'd had the triangle ladder match, we had TLC, the original. So, like, what are we going to do? And we tried to be really creative. We tried to format it in a way that made as much sense as possible from a psychological standpoint. And then we also wanted to try and do the biggest stunts that we possibly could to, like, make this crescendo and be the best match ever. So there was one point, and this is a story that I've never shared before. There was a huge argument, which actually got heated, between myself and Bubba versus Edge, and it wasn't Jeff because Jeff didn't carry the way, but there was like a big intense debate. You know how Jeff is. Oh, cool. Yeah, cool. All right, whatever. And we were determining what was going to be the final spot in the match before the finish. If it was going to be Jeff hanging and then being speared by Edge off the ring that held the titles to the ground, is that going to be the last spot we see before the finish, or is it going to be Matt and Bubba on top and being pushed by Rhino and crashing through the 4 tables? And like I remember at one point, I'm not quite as hot-headed as maybe these two were in the situation, but Bubba and Edge were going at it, and they're like, "No, but it needs to be this way because this is going to get a big reaction. It's going to get a problem." But it's like, "No, this is a lot more destruction. There's 4 tables. There's 2 human bodies going through it. It's not just one person getting destroyed. It's 2 people getting destroyed." And they were going back and forth. We kind of had to like settle them down a little bit and said, "Guys, like take 5 or 10 minutes and chill out, and we'll figure this out." Whatever. We reconvened, and then we eventually thought about what was going to work the best in the format of the story we're telling, and to be able to do the finish we're going to do and utilize the players that we're going to use. What worked best was doing the deal where Jeff is on the ladder grabbing the titles. Bubba walks the thing back, takes the ladder away from him, which clears it so he can get speared and down. And then that allows us to move the one ladder that was speared directly over to do the push. And it brings Rhino in, and we needed Rhino for the finish anyway. So, like, our sense from a psychology our spot, myself and Bubba, from a psychology standpoint, made the most sense as the final spot before they did the deal where they pushed those guys up the ladder to win the title.
And I love that too, because that match has like the ancillary players, like Lita's involved with you guys, Spike is involved with the Dudleys, and Rhino's involved with Edge and Christian. I mean, you've been in the industry for so long from a storytelling perspective.
Right.
I mean, that kind of ties it all together, right?
It does.
Summer is so back, and your boy, you know, he's got the olive Italian skin, so he's doing his best to look long, tan, and handsome this summer. That is from head to toe, and the skies are out, the thighs are out. Our friends at Chubbies are bringing the good vibrations this summer, as a matter of fact. Chubbies is a lifestyle apparel brand that makes every moment feel like a vacation. They say fashion is an expression of one's character, so why not let the world know that you're down for a good time? This dude right here, he's 31, flirty one, and allegedly thriving. But at the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, when we're pairing with Chubbies, you know I am. Chubbies offers a variety of high-quality men's apparel, from super stretchy shorts and swim trunks and 3 short inseam lengths to pants, polos, and button-down shirts for when you need to hit up your fave weekend brunch spot. Embrace the spirit of endless summer with Chubbies, the ultimate destination for bold, vibrant, and outrageously comfortable clothing. And for a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off your order with our exclusive code. Use code HARDY, that's HARDY, at chubbiesshorts.com. And if you think that, oh, John, you're just saying this because they're sponsoring this edition of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, no! I'm wearing the Friday shirt right now. This shirt is so freaking comfortable and lightweight. I don't know about you. I lived in Florida for 3 years. The sweltering heat and humidity would make me pour through my shirts. Not with one of these Friday shirts. I can't tell you how light it feels. It washes easily. It's so comfortable. And as the weather starts ticking up, the temperature starts ticking up, I feel free. I feel authentic. I feel like summer. And you can experience unmatched comfort and style with Chubbies' iconic original stretch shorts as well. Depending on how much thigh you're looking to show, Chubbies makes them in 4, 5.5, and 7-inch inseams. These shorts have the stretchiest fabric for ultimate movability and flexibility while maintaining a perfectly tailored fit. Featuring elastic waistband with button fly, enjoy the classic men's khaki style with the added comfort of elastic. So, the NBA Finals are going on. You want to have those old school NBA shorts, go for it. You want to have the high, that's the high, the old school. You want to have the longer, whatever works for you. Chubbies is making sure they are fitting all the vibes this summer. So I want to help you out here. Whether you're getting dressed for your work day, a workout, or weekend getaway, Chubbies has you covered. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off your order with our code HARDY, HARDY, at chubbiesshorts.com. That's code HARDY, HARDY, at chubbiesshorts.com. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Don't blend in with the crowd. Stand out with Chubbies.
Sure does. I mean, and the hope spots near the end were big, important. The hope spots there and the comebacks and all the other stuff and going up and just I guess teasing it up on the ladder. Teasing those titles and teasing it, and they get taken away from you. It's like, and these guys. With Michael Hayes, I know, but you guys did a phenomenal job always putting shit together, man. Putting matches together, And I guess, Bubba was always trying to protect himself all the time, always wanted to be strong. Devon was always the kind of laid back in the back, and so was Jeff, and laid back in the back.
Right.
Sometimes I would listen to these matches and just, okay, guys, when you figure out this shit, I'm going to come back. I'll get it all, Because sometimes as a referee, too, you wanted to get everything was put together. You don't want to get the maybes and the this will happen and change everything and change. And I'm trying to put all this stuff together in my mind of what spots are going to happen, what's going to happen. I like to get everything when everything is put together. Finally, not the maybes and we're going to do this and changes. But
so it's best for you to be filled in when there's a definitive game plan.
Yes, definitive game plan.
A few things you guys mentioned there. Let's start with this. One of the biggest ribs, I know you've talked about this before on the podcast, was sending Devon Dudley up a ladder. Why was that, Matt Hardy?
Because Devon Dudley was terrified of heights. And it's funny, it almost became like a running joke whenever we're figuring out who's going to hang with Jeff. Like, Jeff wanted to ultimately be speared off that deal when he was hanging on the loop that held the titles. And we were trying to figure out who can be up there, who's available, who hasn't taken a big crash and burn bomb, who's still available in the match. And everybody was going, we should make Devon do it. We should have Devon do it. It'll be a good rib, right? And then Mitch said, well, it really didn't come down. Just the only person that's available is Devon. I guess it's going to be Devon. And Jeff's like, oh, come on. Y'all know I'm afraid of heights. And I don't know if anybody saw that Rivals episode, but it's so funny. He was saying it so loud and so vocal, I could hear it as I was selling on the apron. It's like when they were up there with Jeff, and he was hanging down, and he was just so petrified. He was just holding on for his life, right? And Jeff is walking up him like a spider monkey and kicking him real hard. He said, Jeff, for God's sake, please quit kicking me. Quit kicking me. I'm not ready to fall. Quit kicking me. And he was so freaked out. And then eventually he does. When he lets go and falls, he takes a flat bat bomb, and he totally committed to it. No doubt about it. But he was just, Jeff, you got to do it. You stop kicking me, please. Stop kicking me. Dear God, quit kicking me. I'm going to fall.
So I then love the perspective from both of you. Jeff takes the spear from Edge. It is quite possibly the most iconic WrestleMania spot of all time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, your perspective. Let's start with you, Mike. I mean, being on the outside, seeing this gigantic 70,000 person stadium, Jeff hanging there. I mean, what are you thinking?
Brother, it was just the craziest thing I've seen in my history, in my career. It was just amazing. And I mean, that spot. It's just, who else has ever done it? Nobody, right?
And it's also how crazy, how flat and safely he was able to land.
Brother, I still thought he might have got hurt on that.
No. I mean,
broken back.
The impact of falling. I mean, that thing was hanging 18 feet.
At least 18.
Legit 18 feet. So I mean, he's falling he's pulling his legs up and falling 18 feet. And I mean, in the ring is.
It's not soft.
It's not soft.
It's not soft as much as everybody thinks it is. That foam is a hard foam. Coming off from that 18 to 20 feet is just, It's unbelievable.
Wouldn't steal.
No.
And the timing too. I mean, people talk about Jeff, but the timing of Edge to be able to spear him in the exact right spot at the exact right time.
That's professional, man.
I mean, how are you feeling about it? That's your brother out there, and I know you're about to take a spot of doom right after that, but
he got the bigger paycheck, right?
Well, ironically, we all got the same.
There you go.
And then Bubba went in and bitched again, so we get we did get a little more, but I'm pretty sure they deducted it over the next few months of house shows. Because our payday shrank a little bit. Brother, they're always going to get it back. You know that.
Right. They get that 500 out.
Yeah. There's those stories that like Sean Waltman would go up to JR and be like, "Oh, this paycheck's feeling a little light. This another zero might go a long way."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right. So, I mean, do you feel TLC 2 made you guys?
TLC, it really it cemented our legacy as, especially the three teams, as a different generation of teams that brought tag team wrestling to another level. You know, and it really did. For the rest of our careers following that, we would always be known as like the guys who were just insane and crazy and fearless. These three teams went out and they did all this. You know, they did all this stuff that like the normal human being couldn't even survive. One of them, and they did things over and over and over again. So yes, it really was something that sent us over the top when it comes to being like stars and being established.
That's what I was trying to say, starting in the mid 80s and into the 90s and seeing Demolition and Road Warriors and Powers of Glory. These guys were like ground technical big guys. Didn't do half the shit that these guys did, you know? Just the Rockers even didn't do it, you know? So, I mean, seeing these guys take the business to a whole nother level when they came into the WWF was phenomenal, man. You know, we always have a place in my heart in this business, too, as a friend, too, as well.
Same.
Yeah.
Mike, in a couple minutes, we're going to take a few questions to the audience. Is there anything else you want to add before we let you go here?
No, I'm good, but, you know, just thanks for having me on the show, man. It's good to see you.
No, thank you, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I got to tell you, back when we were extras, we were enhancement talent, job guys, whatever. Mike was always goes, "Hey, what's going on, Hardy?" Always from day one. You know, the first time we ended up coming there with the Italian Stallion and George South, you know, he's like, "Hey, don't be talking to everybody there. We don't want you guys to get too comfortable." And the reason why, they wanted to make sure to be able to bring us themselves so they could get that $100 booking fee of the $150 we got every day.
Right.
You know, we ended up breaking off on our own, but like since day one, he was always kind to us. He would always speak to us and talk to us, and it was so great to work. And this is one of my most fond memories, and I've probably told you this before. I know I've said it with you. Whenever we officially debuted on the WWE roster, and we were wrestling Kai and Tai, and we were going to get our first tag team win.
Indeed.
Under WWE contract, indeed.
Right.
And we were in Hamilton, Ontario. And I remember we were walking to the ring without an entrance. And I remember people said, "Boo, boo." They said, hey, jobbers, who's beating you tonight?" And Mike was walking with us, right? And he said, "Not tonight, boys." And that's a memory that will live with me forever. Not tonight, boys.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Chioda, give it up for him.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Chioda better be going in the WWE Hall of Fame at some point, by the way. Real quick before we get to any other questions here, I'd be remiss. You know, there's another TLC match that doesn't really get talked about, and that's TLC 3. A lot of people may not even remember that TLC 3 happened. It took place at the end of May in 2001, and it's the three of you guys, your three teams, and then also Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho, who had just become a tag team at the time. Anything you can share about that match? Because it kind of just gets forgotten. It happened on an episode of SmackDown.
That's what we call it, the Forgotten TLC. That's what everybody that was involved in it has kind of named it now. One thing I can tell you about that is that we were coming to SmackDown, and everybody thought it was just like a normal day at work. A regular match, whatever. We'll have 8-9 minutes. You do your business, come out, whatever. We were flying from San Jose, where it had been the night before. And we got on a flight, and I think everybody got in a little later to LA whenever we were there. And I remember whenever we landed, like we were all sitting together. Most of the TLC crew was there, right? And I remember everybody's phones were like, toot, 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 toot. And like we're all picking up our phones and like looking at them. And it says, to whoever it is, me, Bubba, Devon, Christian, it says, please come to the building immediately because today it's a little later and in past call time. And I know you were coming later, but we've just determined that the main event for tonight's show is going to be a 4-way TLC match. You know, Edge and Christian versus the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. We're like, what? I mean, and once again, we were going live at 5 o'clock or whatever it was, whenever the show was starting, and immediately we had to get there and like put this together, and this was the fastest we had ever put together a tables, ladders, and chairs match.
Yeah, and I mean, you're including another team in it too. Who
Another team
is completely foreign. How'd they take to the concept?
I mean, they were good. If we were going to have two guys, those were two of the best guys you could have had. And this happened the night after Triple H got his quad torn in San Jose, if I'm not mistaken. It was on the announce table whenever that happened. So obviously plans had changed. So then they were looking for something to try and
establish them as
this team as like one of the best teams ever. And they said, what if this team fights uphill against the three forefathers of the TLC match, and then they're able to pull off a victory. And that's why that match took place.
Was Bubba good with it?
On the surface. Deep down, I don't know, though.
I'd like to take some questions from the gallery if anyone has any. I'd ask, the only thing is keep it specific to the general tables, ladders, and chairs concept if we can. Does anyone have any questions? I'm happy to come around with the microphone. If not, I can sit here and look like an asshole. So, any questions? Okay, let's come on back here. If you wouldn't mind, just say your name, where you're from, and hit me out with your question.
My name is Brian. I'm from here.
What's up, Brian?
You talked about version 1 and that group, being together. What was your long-term plans with that?
I just thought we could really be elevated, especially the four of us were together as young baby faces, and to be able to work against DX, which was a top act. I thought that would be something that would be intriguing, and maybe something DX would even be interested in doing, but apparently they weren't. But that was my idea, and I thought like we just had such a good chemistry with those guys at that time. I thought like our real life friendship would have really resonated from seeing us together on screen.
Any other questions? Over it. Get a twofer.
Hi, Matt. My name is Joe. Been a big fan for my entire life, basically.
Thank you, Joe.
From Philly. My question is, when you're getting started as a professional wrestler, how do you go about deciding what's going to become your finisher and your signature moves? And you specifically, how did you decide on the twist of fate, the side effect, and the leg drop to be your signatures?
It's weird. I mean, it kind of happens in different ways. The leg drop is something I did from my indie days, so that was just in my arsenal, and I was pretty good at it as far as being like accurate and safe with it, and most importantly. And then the side effect is something that I evolved from. I was inspired by Bret Hart, who would do like a dragging clothesline a lot, and I would kind of do like a clothesline where I would sit with someone and take them down. And I just started thinking, like, what if I switched it and like hook the person like that instead of like doing the dragging clothesline and dragging them down and us both landing on our backs? What if I scooped them up and picked them up and dropped down? And that's how the side effect came to be. The twist of fate was initially Michael Hayes' idea. Whenever we were repackaged with him, he said, "Hey, I got an idea about this move." He said, "You grab your opponent in their front face, like the DDT. You know, the fabulous Freebirds made famous." He said, and instead of doing the DDT, you take your other arm, your right arm, and you throw it underneath his throat, you hook your hands together, and wham, you drop him down in the face. And it's the finish, and it's just like that. So we should call it the JLT, just like that. And I said, okay. And they just said, you think we might give it like a little bit more of a Hardy-ish name, Michael? Is that cool? And he ended up being cool with it. And then Twist of Fate is what we ended up using the name as.
Real quick, rumor has it that he also suggested not just a finishing move, but special attire for you guys as well. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, there was one point where he said, like, I mean, when he thinks out the bounds, right? So he was sitting by these things. So I was just thinking, and we were driving him around as he was managing us. He'd had a few dozen to drink. And he was sitting there, he said, "Hey, I got an idea which is really going to separate us from all the rest. What if we get together and we all get some robes made? And they're not just made out of like material and cloth and that old boring bullshit. We get them made out of forks, knives, and spoons. And they're clicking, and you walk down, and it's forks, knives, and spoons. Nobody's ever had a damn jacket like that before. It's a trench coat made of forks, knives, and spoons. And he kept saying it over and over, and I was like, bro, that'd probably be pretty heavy. He said, well, have you ever seen anybody wore anything like that? I said, well, no, but maybe there's a reason. I don't know. But that ended up being a big Bruce Pritchard deal, right? He loved that story.
Do, right?
Yeah.
We got a few more here.
When preparing for a TLC match, do you find it constricting to have to find a way to work in all the gimmicks, or is that kind of freeing? Like, do you have to find a way to make the match fit the gimmick, or do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of that, I feel like, kind of is determined by how much time you have. Like, if you have a small amount of time, I think it's tricky because, like, you can't just start, from the biggest things available. Michael Hayes used to describe stuff like this. He said, hey, like, if you and your wife or you and, your partner, if you're having sex, you just can't start at the finish. He said, you got to kind of work your way up to it. There has to be a little you do this, and you work your way to it. He said, you don't just go straight to the finish. It's like, what do you do after that? You're done, right? And like, I feel like that's a good way to describe a match too. So if
Great way to describe a match.
Yeah, right? Only from the mind of Michael Hayes. But if you're in there in the beginning, if you start wrestling around a little bit, and I love it if you have more time where you can use the chairs a little bit, and you jump off a chair, or you throw a chair at someone, or you drop to hold someone on a chair, whatever it may be. Or you take a ladder and you close on someone with the ladder. Before you ever start climbing and you escalate things and you take bumps off the ladders, even with a table, like I'd love the deal where they would like go to pick up a table and set it in the ring, but then the person drop kicks the table onto the guys. If there's ways you can build that match until you get to your big crescendos of climbing up a 10 or 12-foot ladder and then falling through a table on the outside, or being pushed off and crashing through 4 tables, or moving the ladder and spearing a guy off the ring, whatever, like, those are the big climaxes. It's tough with those matches if you only had 10 minutes, and that means you have to get into it immediately. You know what I mean? There's no real build-up, because I feel like the crowd might not realize this, but subliminally, if you're seeing that build-up, it builds your anticipation throughout the match. You want to see, like, what's the next big thing? How are they going to escalate this? What's going to happen next? Until you get to that final big deal you want to do, and it crescendos.
Couple more here.
Hey, Matt, how you doing? John, just two, if you don't mind. Wrestling is quartered an album, by the way, cheap pop.
There you go.
So, first question would be, after especially the WrestleMania 2000, and then obviously TLC 2, the backstage, like the top guys, the management, like how many people kind of went out of their way to kind of talk to you guys and let you know kind of what you did and how special that was for the business?
They did. I remember after WrestleMania 2000, which once again was the first time we all officially appeared on the main card of WrestleMania. I remember coming back and, Vince and Bruce and Jerry Briscoe and, all of the powers that be said, you guys just achieved something extremely special tonight. You should be very proud of yourself. And what you did tonight is something that's going to change the shape of your careers going forward. And we were like, well, that's nice that they're saying that. But I mean, it seems like it was very honest that they were saying it to us. And also it was very insightful as well, because it was something different. And it's so rare in the pro wrestling business that you get the opportunity to have a blank canvas and paint it in your own way. And the 6 of us, we were allowed a blank canvas when it came to the TLC match, because it had never been done before. And that's also one of the things, when you look back at some of the first times great matches happen, it's hard to be better than that, because the original was so good. So like if it happens later on, they'll go, oh, well, it's nothing compared to what they used to do back in the day. It was real TLC matches when it was the Hardys and Edge and Christian and the Dudleys. So that's a great kindness we were given, the opportunity to do that. So we feel very blessed and grateful to have had that opportunity.
Very cool. And then secondly, on a personal level, and this is actually news to my boys and to John himself, but I'm having a baby girl in September, and I just wanted to ask you, I know you got your boys and now you have the girl, and what's that like, and a little advice maybe for my baby girl in September.
Oh, very good. Congratulations. Very, very happy for you.
Yeah, there you go, dude.
Great round of applause. Nothing is better than having kids, in my opinion. Especially, I'm glad I had kids a little later because I was like ready and I had lived enough life. I'd gotten stuff out of my system. It's just, I feel like when you have a child, it's another human being that you actually look at as more important than you. And I feel like a lot of us just, your priority, and it should be this way. Like your priority and what you be most important in life is you first and foremost. And you know, maybe you meet someone that you have a relationship with or whatever. But when you have a kid, for me, it specifically changed. It's just like, you know, like if I have to go away, if I have to die for them to live, I'd do that in a heartbeat. You know, that's how important it is because it is something you have created. And especially with the boys, it's been so fun with them. I wanted to have 2 boys. I ended up being blessed with 3. And they're all so crazy. They're definitely Hardys, no doubt about it. So it's great. And then I wanted to have a girl because I wanted to experience being a girl dad. And it really is like, it's a huge difference. I mean, the boys all have different personalities, but they're very much boys at heart. You know what I mean? They're like males who want to be crazy and they want to jump around and they want to kind of like buck the system, you know, rock the boat. You know, where the girl does that some now, Evie, the gothic baby, she's also like so charismatic, so expressive, but she is different, just like her personality and emotionally. She is just very different than the boys are. And that's something that I love to see. She's also, I understand why they say daddy's little girl, you know, has you wrapped around your finger. She's also, she knows she's cute and she knows it.
She's a worker.
And she'll already utilize that to try and like get her way. You know what I mean? But it is the best thing ever. And I feel like having children and your relationship with your children is probably the most selfless bond you'll ever experience.
Thank you. That's awesome. Well, congratulations to you.
Yes, congrats.
All right, we got 2 more real quick, Dan, and I know people got to get out of here. So,
And Matt, so when you're putting together a ladder match or a TLC match, what do you think the key element to making sure the story is front and center is, and making it not devolve into what might be just moves for the sake of moves?
That's a great question. I think a lot of that depends on, like, you know, the story you're telling in the big scheme of things. Getting to that is a blow. Like, I feel like looking back at especially TLC 2, I feel like our goal in the big story in that match is that we wanted to make sure that Edge and Christian didn't win regardless, because they'd already won one and they'd kind of screwed the other 2 teams out of the match, whatever. And then I feel like we were telling the story during that, and we all signed off on this when the idea came up, is that we like all bring in our seconds or our third men or third person to like have our back. You know, obviously the Dudleys had Spike Dudley, we had Lita, and then they had brought in Rhino, right? We'd had Lita for a while, and she was just good with myself and Jeff as a package as far as Team Extreme, because she was like a girl version of myself and Jeff with the way she would wrestle and whatnot. So now we saw that Rhino had came in to be with Edge and Christian, and he's not like a girl or a valet like we had. He's a big, like heavy, like a killing machine, right? He's a big heavy. And then Spike Dudley came in to kind of like counter him, where he's this runt who like will go out and he's fearless and he'll do whatever he has, even if it means destroying himself, to try and make sure the odds are even. And then we told that story, and even during the match, they came out during that match because we'd had this progress going through, and they like eliminated each other. But still, at the end of the day, it ended up being Edge and Christian's choice of Rhino is the one who allowed them to overcome, as he pushed the guy up the ladder and they won the titles right at the end. You know, I feel like that was probably our biggest storytelling arc in that, is like, whatever happens, we don't want Edge and Christian to win this because they ripped us off before, and we got to do everything we can, throw everything out to not allow them to win this match.
last question right up here.
Thank you, Matt. I'm Chris from Philly.
Hey, Chris.
Two-part question is, how cool is it now to have Edge Christian and your brother in AEW? And has there been any consideration of a TLC match in AEW in 2024 or 2025?
It's very cool to have all four of the No Mercy 99 ladder match people in AEW, which is really cool. And I know everybody knows there's huge interest in that match. You know, I think that match, especially if done the right way and we do it smartly, as I think we can all do as savvy veterans of the game now who've been around 30 plus years, all of us. I feel like we can do it where it will be very entertaining and very good. I just think it's one of those things, like the right moment, the right story, and you get there the right way. And I think now more than the athleticism, it's about the legacy of like these four characters interacting again. And I think that's what people would want to see more than anything else, us interacting. If there's an issue between the teams, which leads to the team battling. I think there's money to be made there.
Christian seems really obsessed with dead dads these days. I'm just saying. It's a catalyst for a lot of things.
Kind of going through a phase. Remember he used to throw temper tantrums all the time, too?
You know, they really should have put the blue dot on his face when they had the chance to.
It is what it is. He used to be a vampire. Sure. Till me and Jeff took his place.
For like a hot second.
Like a hot second.
Man, this was so great, man. So great. And if you enjoyed Matt's storytelling, here again, The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy drops every single Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Anything else you want to share here with the fantastic fans in Philadelphia?
No, I just, first and foremost, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for coming out and sitting down and just kind of listening to us shoot the shit. I'm very grateful Mike Chioda came out. John is an amazing host. John's really good at keeping the car in the lane, especially when you have like the Good Brothers in here and they may have had a couple drinks.
Oh my Lord, we did a live show with the Good Brothers one time and you could smell the tequila from across the room. Adam was there, he knows. Yeah.
But yeah, man, these things are so much fun and I enjoy them, and we're really proud of the podcast. Like we talk wrestling, we talk life, and I feel like I have a bunch of wrestling and life that I can talk about now. I'm at that point in my life where I have a lot of experience in both. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm glad there are people that care enough to come sit with us for a little while and enjoy.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, guys, this is, I say this all the time to people when they ask, oh, you work with Matt and everything. Phil over there, I work with him at SNY, and every day on the way home from the
SNY?
on the train home, I'm like, oh yeah, man, I talk about this. I mean, this is one of the true good guys in pro wrestling as a human being, and to not just be a good person, but to also have the legendary career that matches up with it. It's to give these guys their flowers now while they're still around here and kicking ass. So let's give it up for Matt Hardy, guys. Thank you, guys.
Such a fun live event. This truly was one of my favorite things that we have ever done with the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. You never know who is going to show up, so make sure you are in attendance for the next one, which will be, of all things, July 13th at 90s Wrestling Con. Come meet your heroes from the 90s era of professional wrestling, the Attitude Era, one of the most exciting times in wrestling history. And then on July 13th at 6 p.m., it is a night with the Hardys, the Hardy Party. HardyBoysLive.com. That's boys with a Z, as you're going to get a live episode of The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, followed by a live Jeff Hardy concert. We cannot wait for it. I hope to see you there. Tickets are $60 for both events in total. What a steal. And it's a steal, too, if you get on board with us here at The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. You head on over to advertisewithhardy.com to promote your business to the extreme in front of thousands of listeners and viewers every single week. With that said, the words have been spoken. We'll see you next time right here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
My skin's dying because you're under it. I'm done lying to myself for this, for all the wonder and believing that it's making me weak. I'll fade away and classify myself as obsolete. My skin's dying. I'm done lying.
Double J, Jeff Jarrett, here with a few of my pals to tell you about the total nonstop savings happening over at SaveWithConrad.com.
Daniel Ortiz in Angelo, Texas. We had 4 large financial unexpected emergencies, and I knew that I needed something to give us a little more breathing room. And when he mentioned we can skip 2 house payments and wipe out credit card debt and loan debt, so that's exactly what I did. I called them, and it did change everything. Diane, she was awesome. She was professional. And the important thing with her is she listened. That's what made all the difference in the world. She was patient. And anytime that I needed to talk to her, she was there. She texted back. It was a different experience from any other place. Well, I can tell you the difference that it made was over $80,000 for us. It freed up that much. My credit score went up 126 points with Save with Conrad, which made it an 802. My name is Daniel Ortiz, and I freed up $80,000 with SaveWithConrad.com.
In my world, it doesn't get any better than 5 stars. Find out how much money Conrad and his team can save you by strutting over to SaveWithConrad.com. So right now, strut on over to SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 32416, equal housing lender, SaveWithConrad.com.